Recently, many fans have asked why I stopped reviewing horror films. Since you're all so interested, today I'll cover a creepy and twisted movie, Wrong Turn 4. Don't watch while eating because it's really unsettling. The story starts in a mental hospital with very unusual inmates, especially these three. They're inbred and do unimaginable things. One eats his fingers when hungry, another eats his eyes, and the third gnaws on walls, sharpening his teeth. The doctors had to muzzle him. Let's call them the wild men. While being shown around, one wild man grabbed a woman's hair but didn't attack. He just wanted her hairpin. After they left, the wild man used the hairpin to unlock the cell door, and the massacre began. A guard noticed something was wrong and went to check, only to be caught and eaten alive by the three wild men. The scene was horrific, with body parts being stuffed into mouths. Soon, the hospital was overrun, and all the normal humans were tortured to death, leaving only the abnormal ones. Fast forward a few years, a group of young adults set out for a cabin but got lost, ending up at the same mental hospital. Despite being in the middle of nowhere, the place still had electricity. To escape a snowstorm, they decided to stay the night, unaware that the wild men were next door, unseen by the group. There's no need to introduce them since it doesn't matter. They'll all die anyway. But how they die, you'll have to watch. At night, a man went exploring and thought he saw someone. It was a corpse, and he was quickly killed by a wild man who impaled his head with a metal rod. The wild man dragged him to the kitchen, dismembered him, and ate him. By morning, a woman noticed her boyfriend was missing. They split up to search and found blood on the walls. Another woman saw a wild man eating and chopping up their friend's body, and she ran back to warn the others. Before they could escape, a package was thrown down by a wild man. Inside was her boyfriend's head. Then, another woman was hung up, and a man tried to save her, but I can't believe it. Was he trying to make his girlfriend die faster? Blood gushed down, and her head was severed. Seeing his girlfriend's head on the ground, the man screamed like a pig. They all ran out, but their car was sabotaged by the wild men, leaving them stranded. A woman, bundled up, went to call for help, but the phone had no signal, and she froze to death outside. Now, it's up to them. Have you ever seen such brutal killing? A man was tied to a table, and the wild men cut him up, eating his flesh. These wild men love human meat. Just minutes ago, the young adults planned to fight back and find weapons. A wild man with an axe chased them, but they hid. When they found weapons and were heading back, a man was caught and tied to a table. Realizing another friend was missing, they decided to kill the wild men. The captured man couldn't bear the pain and died quickly. As the wild men feasted, the group attacked with knives and fire, scaring them into a cell. A man wanted to burn them alive, but a woman showed mercy, saying not to kill them so cruelly. I can't believe it. If you're so compassionate, go be the Buddha. The man listened, which was a crazy move. They planned to take turns watching the wild men until dawn. Before dawn, a wild man used wire to unlock the cell. The man was left with no choice but to fight. If they didn't kill the wild men, they'd be killed. Hours later, a woman went to switch shifts and found another friend dead. Before they could run, a masked man attacked. He couldn't speak, so they thought they could overpower him. They rushed out and stabbed him to death, only to find it was their friend. The wild men had cut out his tongue. It's absurd. They couldn't kill the wild men but easily killed their friend. Without thinking, they stabbed him to death. As they prepared to flee, the wild men attacked, and 4 people hid inside. They planned to dig a tunnel to escape. 3 made it out, but 1 was left behind. The wild men burst in, and the 4th woman was killed with a drill. They barely escaped, but the wild men chased them in a car. 1 was caught, and despite the woman's stabbing, the wild man felt no pain. Then, the wild man crashed into a tree, but another wasn't so lucky. A woman was crushed under the car, blood everywhere, and soon she was dead. Now, only 2 women were left. The wild men were still chasing. Just as 1 woman was about to be killed, the last woman ambushed the wild man, knocking him out. They ran for their lives. Do you think they'll survive? They didn't. They ran out, only to be decapitated by a wire trap set by the wild men. The movie ends here. The wild men dragged the bodies home for the holidays. I think the first 3 Wrong Turn movies were better. The later ones aren't as good. Does anyone else agree?